Hello and welcome to my commentary on your Google Hangout 2 for Laura, Jesse, Ubaldo, and Emily. Let me start by saying that I did enjoy your discussions and your evidence of preparation and coverage of different questions that were assigned in that discussion. I think that one of the things that I did miss in your Hangout was the discussion on the trilogy and the interface that the FBI was trying to implement as part of its big facelift of technology for virtual case files. So that's, one of the things that I was missing from it, but generally you were very comprehensive in your coverage. So I'm going to start with, I think you went sort of in order on those questions, starting by question number 1 with Jesse starting the conversation on the relationship between the intelligence analyst and the policymaker. And so you had some really good discussion on policy agendas that are set by the policymaker. And as Loventhal likes to stress, the intelligence process is designed to where the analyst or intelligence analyst, as you know, in line with Kent, Foundations of Intelligence Process, is supposed to provide the intelligence to the policymaker, and then the policymaker would deem whatever is necessary for their application and ultimately the action. So you had some discussion on partisan examples from intelligence community and the issues that are on the border of politicization of intelligence and the policymakers having their own agendas and expecting the analysts to sort of or to pull from the analysis what drives that specific agenda, and that's an inherent problem or an issue in that relationship. So you did talk about the perspective of the analyst might not be the same in, since they do not have that big strategic policy picture. The analyst obviously will try to focus on issues that are relevant to them, that they are researching, where the policymaker might not always find those issues a priority and will sort of pick and choose what components to act on. And of course, Laura, I think, brought into the discussion a really good point about the fact that, sometimes the analysts who have a longer tenure, typically that elected officials, that they tend to sort of get in a silo of their own research and their own priorities in intelligence collection because they are more, at that lower level of looking at an issue, whereas a policymaker has a much larger agenda, and they sort of have a much larger view. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a flawed process. It's the way it was designed. And of course, sometimes, that raises a conflict of the intelligence analysts not being particularly satisfied with the way their interpretation or their interpretation of the intelligence should be applied. But of course, that line or the boundary is there to make sure that the intelligence analyst does not influence unduly the policymaker. And I think that Jesse brought about a really relevant point of the fact that policymakers are consumers and customers for that intelligence analysts. And in that way, they are so positioned that they will pick and choose a priori what elements of that product they want to use. And Jesse mentioned that rather than being consumers, because it's very, it's a sort of the economical principle, you know, when you consume or when you absorb the information, it's more like you are shopping the market, so to speak. And that's the inherent threat to that relationship. But then on the other hand, if you have a partner, if intelligence analyst becomes a partner of a policymaker, that runs a risk of, again, going against that principle that the intelligence analyst is not supposed to influence policy, that it is the policymaker that has the ultimate say in how they're going to shape, you know, their political agenda. So you talked about, you know, the Fourth Amendment issues, Jesse, and also the consumer equals, or consumption equals casualties, and that ultimately the executive has the responsibility or the utmost accountability for acting upon the intelligence. You had some discussion, I think Emily brought it out, on that acting issue that stemmed from 9/11 Commission report on the fact that the information sometimes it's provided and it is there, but it is the policymaker that is going to determine, you know, how much of it they will use to support whatever the processes they want to support. However, you know, you brought out a really good point also that it is the analysts who are anchored in the, you know, they're experts, subject matter experts, that they are a lot more versed in the intelligence process than a policymaker is. So again, to some extent, they should be in a way taken, excuse me,